185 miles south. A hardcore punk rock podcast.
We're going to start. All right. This is recorded on April 27th, 2019. And today we have Larry White, who played for 3 out of the 4 Big Four. You got a petition to get you on one Ill Repute show, right?
Yeah, I almost had it. I almost had the whatever 4 is, not a trifecta, but their drummer at the time was going to be out of the area, and they had some shows. Chuck hit me up, and I said, "Yeah, man, that would be awesome. Then I can seal the deal on the Big Four."
Yeah.
But he ended up not having to go where he was going to go for work, so that kind of stalled out. But I did get a little excited for a minute and thought, wow, I guess I am kind of like a drum whore.
Yeah, and to clarify, so was the first Nard band you played with Aggression?
Yes.
On the Somebody Got Their Head Kicked In?
Correct. There was three recordings, I believe, is all we did on that compilation, and that had everybody from Social Distortion, the Blades, Battalion of Saints, the Joneses, quite a few bands that some continued on. Look at Social Distortion. I mean, they stayed going strong and never stopped. And then some that kind of like us, you play and then you fade out and then you come back and you fade out. And they do a reissue or a remaster and you come out and. But yeah, that was one of the first times I got exposed to the whole Nardcore sound and the bands that were happening. I was living in Ventura and hanging out a lot in Oxnard, and had heard about these bands. There was Stalag 13, there was Aggression, there was Dr. No, Ill Repute, and a handful of other bands. And with me, it's always been right time, right place. I'd had a couple bands that I had started with friends, and we were just doing covers because at the time we had been exposed to Black Flag, Jealous Again EP, Circle Jerks, DOA, a lot of the local LA type sounds, and even though DOA is not from LA, they were around a lot.
Well, they were an early touring band.
Correct, and that's how we kind of tied in with them. But pretty much all the bands from LA, Orange County, Agent Orange, you name them, Adolescents, they were all in our ear from whatever source we could get it from. And at that time, I want to say Adam Baum was the only radio guy playing anything, and he's college, and he would come on at midnight. I want to say it was like a weeknight, like a Wednesday at midnight, and he would broadcast from Loyola Marymount University. And he was kind of the guy, he would play all the stuff that we were going to know about if we hadn't already, heard it from a friend. But it was just us emulating and wanting to be like them and realizing that, there was something going on out there musically. And with the music comes the visual effects of how you look and how you entertain, go into those shows. And then I remember one of the first shows after, and I hadn't been in any of these bands yet. Let's go back. I had my, local Ventura band that was called White Trash, and it was made up of some friends, and we did all the covers. I mean, if it was, being heard, we were playing it. It was so cool because people knew it. It was almost like a punk rock karaoke before it was invented. But a good friend of mine, Art Pena, said, "Hey man, you want to go see a band in Hollywood?" And I was like, "Cool." I'd never been to a show there. I think my earliest memory of a show was my brother taking me in the 70s to go see Black Sabbath and Grand Funk Railroad. And I was 13. So that was not really something that I followed right after that, but went to it many years later. But my friend Art took me to the Whiskey. We saw the Runaways, and I was blown away. And I'm like, wow, knowing it's not really punk, but it was like my first trip to Hollywood.
It's definitely punk adjacent.
Oh, and being at the Whiskey a Go-Go, and that's the old Whiskey, the one that was almost like the CBGBs.
Sure.
It just was funky. And then
what year is that?
I want to say this is 78.
Okay.
Then he hit me up and said, "Hey, we're going to go see another really cool band that's kind of punk, but kind of metal, but kind of, they're artsy." And I'm like, cool. So he didn't tell me. We get down there, and who do we see but the Plasmatics? And that just blew my mind. Windio comes out pretty much naked with just electrical tape and whipped cream all over. Richie Stotts and that crazy, bustier bra thing. He's like 6'6", bald head, mohawk, and playing a flying V. And I was just like, what the hell? This is it. And then, of course, at these shows, we were seeing the punks, you know, the engineer boot, chain, like dog collar chains wrapped around the boots, pants tucked in, bondage belt, bum flaps. You know, it was a look, Pendleton, crazy hair color. And from there is when it just took off for me. And then I pursued a lot more locally here in Ventura, Oxnard. Started going to more parties, heard about this Aggression band. And at the time, again, like I say, right place, right time. I stepped in, and they liked what I brought, and we played a little bit here and there. One of our first big shows for me, and I think for the band, was the Olympic Auditorium, and I just saw the flyer somebody had posted on Facebook, and it was Olympic Auditorium, CronGen, Vice Squad, a whole list of bands, and us. And I found a picture. I think Alison Braun had shot it, and I looked like Billy Idol. I got like spiky blonde hair, you know, and it was just...
It's amazing to think of a show there. Like, the only time I ever went to the Olympic Auditorium was to watch wrestling.
Yeah.
And it's a huge place.
It's giant. And many years later, I'd revisit it after one of my good friends who was very close with Motorhead, the band, and Lemmy personally, would take me there in the 80s to go see Motorhead. And, you know, I was just like, well, I've been here before. I played here. But that was it. And so that was, you know, just hanging out with the boys in Silver Strand, rehearsing, you know, coming up with a lot of music, but then got asked to do the Someone Got Your Head Kicked In on BYO. 3 recordings, 3 songs. Went on that tour, and it was basically 2 buses. Ours was an old school bus that was, you know, held together with duct tape and baling wire. The other bus that like Social D and those guys were in was a much better running machine.
And just to clarify for the people, this is the tour that they made.
This is the tour they made.
Another State of Mind.
Another State of Mind, and of course that was the other bus or van that was being documented. Ours was kind of like, yeah, you know, if you're smart enough, bring a camera or one of those big giant shoulder video cams. But
because a lot of people don't know that Aggression was going to be on that tour, which would have been insane. So sorry to jump in. I just want to make sure people know.
Yeah,
because that is such a famous tour for the history of punk rock.
Well, BYO, the Stern Brothers were so involved, and they were so behind music and so behind so many things in the industry that I had never heard of a tour like that. You know, maybe one was put together on another state in the United States. I had never heard of it. This was something that LA was starting to explode with music in the late 70s, the 80s, early 80s. And I think it was smart. They found bands that they believed in. They let us record, put us on the tour, and the rest is history. I mean, ours, there's so many stories about our tour, and we started in the northern route. So we played LA, we went to San Francisco, Oregon, we went up that route, Montana and around the top, and then came down the East Coast. And our school bus had broken down so many times, I was just going, we're not going to make this. This isn't going to happen. And I remember pushing that damn school bus in Boston, getting out, and there's like, I think 12 of us inside this bus, and we're just pushing the school bus up the street. And, you know, it's of course all stenciled. That bus that's on the back of the Someone Got Their Head Kicked In, that's ours with all that graffiti on it. That thing was just like horrific looking in 1980. That's when that tour was, because we rolled into Oklahoma, and the town exactly was Okmulgee. And I remember when we hit town, people were driving by us in station wagons throwing beer bottles at our bus. And we're like, what the hell?
Just like town folk? Town
folk that were like, we don't like your kind here.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we had Spiked Terror. Those are my attack dogs there in the background. They just didn't like our type. They didn't know what we were. We were so far from the future from anything they had seen. And actually, while we were in Oklahoma, I remember at a bar watching the launch of MTV. And we saw the first video, the first everything. And I thought, that's a weird thing, you know, these like video things and bands. And so, I mean, it was pretty memorable, but it was 1980. And that was a real eye opener for me. And we got all the way through the tour. We did break down. I think it was New Mexico, and we kind of had to pull the plug. I had to take and get money wired to me. I took a bus home, got one of my dad's vans, and drove back to pick up the boys and the equipment. So our tour could have been documented as like just interesting with the failures, but
I didn't realize you guys did that much of it.
yeah, we did about 3/4, and we played everywhere. And
Why didn't they document you on the documentary?
It's hard to say. We had Battalion of Saints in our bus. We had I believe it was the Jones or the Blades, us, and I can't remember the other band. I believe there was 3 or 4 bands in our school bus. This bus was like 30-some foot long. It was huge, and we gutted all the seats except for a couple. So you got all the gear, all the personal effects, all the stench of that many people.
Yeah.
And a guy that owned it, who was our driver, that just constantly was apologetic to say, oh, I don't know, the carburetor's having problems. Oh,
Sure.
The transmission, and it was on and on and on. And I thought, well, at that time, I think I was, let's see, in 1980, I was just out of high school. So I was probably 18, 19. And the wherewithal of like, am I doing the right thing? Am I know what I'm taking part in? No, but it was interesting. And I was with some friends that I had, met in Oxnard and were in a band with, and we had formed a union. But quite an interesting event, which later I would tour the U.S. in, smaller vans with, Dr. No. And we would have success and fun and no breakdowns. I think the most was like a blown tire. So to me, that's easy. That's easy road work. But when you have like every 100 miles stopping on the side of the road and the carburetor and the fan belt and it's, you're young, you're like, all right, woo, whatever side of the freeway. What state are we in? All right, let's go find a mart, get some beer, get some snacks. And you just, there were no timetable. You knew you had to be at a certain club on a
Sure.
certain day. But that same tour, I mean, we pulled into Lawrence, Kansas, and it's a real college town where we were. Walked into the bar, they had flyers up. We're like, right on, man, this is a cool bar. We're going to kick ass. The bartender goes, who are you guys? We said, we're Aggression. We're from Oxnard. And they go, oh, yeah, cool. Well, tomorrow's going to be an awesome night. And we're like, wait, tomorrow? Well, we're here now. We thought, because we got to go,
Yeah.
and we're supposed to be. And the guy goes, oh, no, it's tomorrow. Well, let me call some friends. And that's kind of the way our tour was. It was before internet and social media. It was a little black book of phone numbers. It
Sure.
was somebody had a stolen phone card. Somebody's parents gave them a credit card, phone card, something. So the technology was very archaic in a way from what we know now, but it was also real interesting that to tour like that was really a feat. It was something to look back on and go, yeah, I mean, we had to keep, there was no digital log of, the earnings. It was like a bag or a little, go bag for your toiletries, and you'd stuff the cash, or,
Sure.
there wasn't any like, ATM cards. We just go to the bank and draw, no kind of like,
Well, there
handling business.
There wasn't GPS.
There was
That's the
none.
biggest-
It
that's
was
the
a
biggest
Thomas guide.
Yeah.
It was some guy at the club. Oh, I know how to get you to the interstate, and it'll get you to, I used to
Yeah.
live there, and it was that. So it was quite interesting in, 1980, trying to explore the United States like that. I'd never been out of the state at that magnitude, of just taking off. And I don't even remember how long that tour was supposed to be. I feel like it was about a month to 2 months total from start time. But, we'd have to drop shows because we couldn't get there. Again, equipment failures. But it was, when we pulled the plug on it, New Mexico, we just kind of went, yeah, this is, I remember, funny part about that one too, we were coming through Colorado, just come from, God, I forget where we were at, pull into Colorado. We literally had, I think, I want to say about $30 to our name. The bus had some fuel. We knew there was a gig that night, and it was, breakfast time, and somebody said, there's a Taco Bell. So we roll in, we said, how many tacos can we get for $30? And it was like this absurd amount of tacos.
Yeah.
And that was our meal. And we waited till the gig that night, and it was packed, and we got paid, and we got us to, because I think we came out of Colorado, southern route across New Mexico, and that's where it died. But I mean, that's kind of the tour. And I've recently been on a couple tours to Europe, and again, to have the technology we have, it's a good time to be alive and experience this type of technology, because I went to Europe in 2008 with a Elvis punk cover band called GG Elvis, and had not toured anywhere in the States during, modern times of technology, than just get on a jet and go to Europe and do all of the Eastern Bloc, Prague,
Yeah.
and just like totally trust this thing called the TomTom to get us everywhere.
And what is a TomTom?
It's basically like a GPS unit that was like one of the first one. The Garvin, I think, is the brand. But, to trust that to get us, because I remember like on the bus in 1980, we had maps. You'd go to AAA and they'd give you maps of the whole United States, and you'd pull these things out and you're like, here we are. And you'd estimate mileage, and that was it, man. It was the old school paper technology, paper trail. And I think Thomas Guy probably went United States wide, but at the time that was a lot of money to buy one of those. But we'd get free maps from AAA. I always seemed to be the responsible one that had AAA. So we could go into any state, get maps. But to go to Europe in '08 with this Elvis band blew me away, that everything was so smooth. You look at your phone and here's the contract, here's the guarantee, here's the location. And I thought, man, this is really a good time to be alive. This is a trip. And then we went back in 2017. I did a double with Stalag and Dr. No, basically dropped the Doctor. So it was Dr. No music. It was the
current Brandon version.
It's Brandon, Fred, and Ismail and myself. And we at one time all were a Dr. No member.
Sure.
But I never was in the band with those three guys. I was in the band with Kyle and two other cats. And that was in '89, like the whole thrash metal crossover thing was happening. So the album I recorded with them
was Wreckage, right? The third LP.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a fun project going in 2017, but I did a double every night, and we never knew if Stalag or No was headlining. But to me, both of those bands are such different running machines that, to me, Stalag is almost like a Minor Threat feel. It's just you get in it and go. It's not too out of control, where No felt like getting in, like some turbocharged vintage muscle car and just putting your foot to the floor and just hoping you go straight and you don't hit a pole. And it's so much fun for me, and I enjoy that band so much because it's just something that's so different, because I've done Stalag from '83. And pretty consistently over the last 35 years, there was a window from about '87 where we stopped into the '90s. I kind of got myself buried in a relationship and just then hunkered down. I'm so thankful for guys like Joey Wolf and some other locals to pull me out sometime in the late '90s and 2000 to get me playing drums again. And we started a band called the Nardcore All-Stars, which was, again, kind of a cover band, but there wasn't anything we couldn't play.
No,
we
super
would
fun.
play, and people loved it. Again, it's almost pre-punk rock karaoke.
Yeah.
But I got back into the music, and it seemed like between then and like '87, there were little bursts of a Stalag reunion. There was a 30-year thing in Wainimi we did.
Yeah.
And, of course, me being the whore that I am, I had to play and caught off guard because I was in that band with Forrest, and then I did Dr. No. And I did Stalag, I did Aggression, and of course Mark and Henry were already gone during that 30-year reunion. But, everybody wanted me to kind of play a little and, be a part of it. So, yeah, over my last 40 years, there's been a lot that's happened. The touring now is so much fun.
Yeah.
2017 was awesome. That was land in Copenhagen, play with Discharge right under them. Those boys were solid and just
still great in 2017, huh?
Just, powerful. And even though it's not Cal on vocals, the guy doing it, solid. And I guess Bones, who was the original drummer, is now guitar. They're all so nice, very, very accommodating. And then we did 4 dates in Germany. We went to Bologna, Italy. We did Pula, Croatia, and then did the Rebellion Fest in England, which was just a mind blower. If you want to go see the Super Bowl of punk rock, go to the Rebellion Fest.
Which is how many people?
It is a giant, they call it the Winter Gardens, and within this property, there's probably 6 to 8 giant ballrooms that hold thousands.
Oh, Jesus.
So it's huge. I mean, that's why I say it's beyond the Super Bowl. And so you have to, if you want to see a band, decide, well, who don't I want to see? Because they don't schedule them. It's like this venue has these bands these times. This venue, this venue. So for me, it was nice because Stalag played at 5 in the afternoon at one giant ballroom, and then No played at 11:30 on another one. And yeah, it's just a fun place. So we did 5 dates in England and then come home, and it was just such an experience. Again, technology is just so awesome. And this year now we're going to go back to Rebellion with No only. And then in September, Stalag's going to do Tokyo. So that'll be something that's
It's going to be
really
awesome.
Yeah, I've been looking at videos like just tripping out that it's like Mad Max meets Tron meets, because technology there is so insane.
Yeah.
The technology is everything you can imagine from anything you've ever seen in a movie. It's like Times Square times 10
Sure.
on steroids. But,
Sure.
So yeah, still doing it. But yeah, I got a lot of history, to tell you.
Yeah. So let's go back to you did the tour with Aggression. You recorded those songs.
I recorded 3 songs. I was with them probably 2 years, really, is all.
And why did you leave?
When I got back, the band had kind of taken on a manager, and at that time, Mark and Henry felt the band needed a manager. It was still so young of a music in a scene that I think only a handful of bands needed a manager. Those were playing and touring constantly. They were doing big venues and needed their riders and their guarantees and that stuff. For us, we still weren't even on the map. Oxnard still wasn't recognized. You had people talking about Boston and New York and Texas and LA and Seattle, San Francisco, but they'd skip Oxnard all the time.
Sure.
Bands from Arizona. There were little blips about, bands that weren't in those major cities. But for us, we took on this manager, and I just didn't see eye to eye. And I had some business sense because at a young age, I, was raised in the carnival with my dad. He dragged me around at like 12, 13, 14, 15. I was hanging out at carnivals, hustling, making money, working swap meets on the weekends. So, I had a business sense, and I thought, there isn't anything here. We need a manager. And this guy was slick, lived in a big house in Agora. And I just felt like we were way out of our league. And so basically the guy kind of broke the band up, in my opinion. So Aggression was dissolved due to just differences in ideas and beliefs. There was no bad blood.
What time frame is that, though? Is that before or after the LP?
This is about 80. This is just before that Don't Be Mistaken album with Arthur Lake on the cover, where they had Mark Aber come in.
Yeah.
And they put those BYO songs on that album.
Yep.
They re-recorded, and I'm not even sure who the label is. But this is
That's on BYO.
Is it still BYO?
Yeah.
And it's funny that I just kind of let it go. I don't even pay attention. But this was probably 82-ish, I want to say. I'd have to look up the time.
So they actually broke up before they did that LP.
Correct.
And then got back together.
And they got Mark Aber, who ended up being a good dude, and he really, I think, pushed the band into a harder, deeper sound. Mm-hmm. When I listened to the original Stalag, and again, I'll be the first disclaimer here that I was never the first drummer in these bands, Stalag, Aggression, Dr. No. There were many before me, and in all 3 of those bands, and I'll give credit to anybody I can remember.
How were there so many punk drummers in Oxnard?
Well, they sucked.
Okay.
Not to say that I was any better, but I could hold the beat.
At the time.
At the time, I could keep a tempo, hold the beat. I could be creative. I had my own drum set, and I had my own wheels. Mm-hmm. So you got to imagine at like 18, not a lot of people had wheels. Not a lot of them had jobs. But again, because of my upbringing, I had the drive. If I needed something, I had to work to buy it.
Yeah.
So, there were a lot of drummers before me in Aggression, and very cool cats that, Robin Cartwright comes to mind. He, I feel, was in a lot of the bands that I pursued, and he just, if you're a drummer, you're a drummer. I think Robin had other talents in other areas. But he played drums, and he played with Aggression. And I can't even tell you how many more. And I think at one time you have guys like Rick Heller, who were Dr. No, rooted in the old days. And I feel like Rick probably played for Aggression. I just feel like everybody had moved around because they were like, oh, cool, this band's not doing anything, but I heard this band's going to do this.
Yeah.
And they got a better gig, so I'm going to break up. And it was kind of like whorish, and we did a lot of that. But for me, I stepped into Aggression, right time, right place. We put together an entire set list. We played some live gigs. We had the big Olympic Auditorium show. Then BYO comes in, we record, we go on tour, we come back. And I don't even know if we even played after we came back from that tour. So I bet it might have even been about 81 that band kind of dissolved.
Yeah.
So, I don't have the month of that tour. I bet that the movie Another State of Mind probably documents year and month.
Yeah.
So, I mean, basically it was with Aggression in like 79, 80. The tour happened sometime. It wasn't the winter. I know that. The weather was good. We were in Boston in shorts pushing a bus. So these are my recollections that I'm feeling a good year to a year and a half probably with Aggression. And then the band, when we got back from the tour, just didn't do anything. Again, the difference is, and I don't recall doing any shows after the tour. So it could have been a real dissolved thing in 81. Then you cut to, I go back to Ventura. I hang out with some cats, put together some other music. I've got this band that gets together called Heroes of Noise. And that was local guys. Eric Heiss on vocals from Ojai. Chad Warner was a smoking guitar kid. And again, I'm a little bit older. You know, I'm now 81, 82-ish, I want to say, is like 19, 20. Mm-hmm. And some of these guys, there's nobody really that's my age. They're all, I'm noticing, they're a little younger. They're like 18, 17, 18. So Tony Black on bass, who's a monster, he now plays with Marshall Tucker Band, and he's had a great musical career.
So what do you guys sound like?
So Heroes of Noise was very... God, when I listened to it, it was so fast. It was faster than Minor Threat. It was like gangreenish, but not gangrene. It was so energized and so original.
Those gangrene demos, that's about as fast as you can go.
You know, I mean, it's...
Without going into, like, power violence. Like, if you're playing the straight double time beat, how much faster you can go?
And I love that term because I just learned that about the last 5 years. Power violence, blast beats. I'm an old school, you know. I play drums. This new technology is awesome. I love watching the guys do it. But yeah, Heroes of Noise was a local made-up group. I got that together, and at the time, the Café de Grande in Hollywood was happening. All these clubs in Hollywood. Back then, you submitted a cassette. You know, nowadays you email.
Sure.
Now, you know what I mean? You put people in touch with your social media and check us out, videos and YouTube. So everybody out there, think about this, man. This is like the Wild West when we were
It's
doing
still
this.
a lot of word of mouth nowadays is the most.
There is, but I think the clubs rely so much, and it bugs me, and that's another topic we can go into. But yeah, Heroes of Noise was awesome. It was so fast, and I listened to myself, and I'm like...
Did you record?
Yeah, we didn't do it with a label, but we have recordings, and I'm trying to find a way to convert them. I have them in one of my computers, and I'll be so upset if I can't get them converted because I listen to it now. I mean, it's been some years, but I got a copy, and I've got a friend that's got another copy of it. It is so fast, it's freakish. I'm like, is that sped up? He's like, no, man, we hauled ass. And
you got to get it. Yeah. So it's on tape, and you need to get it to
digital?
No,
it's digital. It's digital, but what happened was I took it from this email, put it into this old computer, and then because of like Microsoft, 98 and 2000 and all these upgrades, I'm running, whatever the newest Microsoft.
Oh, we can have someone fix that for you easily.
Could, yeah.
Joe Rivas can do it for you.
Yeah,
probably.
And it would be so awesome because I'd love to put it out there. And so I did Heroes of Noise, and we had some shows in Hollywood. And it, as any band coming from Oxnard, Ventura, Hollywood just kind of goes, where?
Yeah.
What is Oxnard?
Yeah.
So it took a lot of the bands from Oxnard a while to get a kind of a stronghold on anything in LA. If you went to the OC and you tried to play any of the clubs or the Music Machine or any venue, it was just kind of like, where? Oh, all right, well, let's give it a listen. So eventually we did. We broke through. But, yeah, Heroes of Noise didn't last forever. And, again, I couldn't even tell you why that band dissolved. Let me back that up. I do know why. Because somebody goes, hey, I hear Stalag needs a drummer. Their drummer, Harry Meisenheimer's going on to the Cramps. And so, yeah, I have to retract that comment. I do know why.
Yeah, and so that's the lineage of
So that's
Stalag.
The lineage of, like, the 82-ish right in there. And then I get involved with Stalag.
And Stalag, Joey Libke was the demo drummer?
Correct. There's Libke. Again, I feel like Robin Cartwright. I feel like Rick Heller. I feel like there are a bunch of people. There's Harry Meisenheimer. Harry did the recordings.
And Harry played on In Control.
Harry did the In Control recordings.
But you came on right after because your photo's on the LP.
Correct. And I told the boys, they said, we'll go back in the studio. I think it was Skip Saylor was the recording studio. And we'll redo it with you. And I said, no. I said, believe me, I play totally different than Harry. People will see us live and go, oh, wow. Like, they'll get it.
Yeah.
And Harry's awesome. Harry had a great career with Stalag for the Minute. He did the recordings. He went on to the Cramps and had a great career, along with numerous other great projects. But you always want to be different as a drummer. And
Sure.
so Harry had his style. And when I came into Stalag, I did my own thing. And, and with time, people go, oh, okay, I see what you did different. And that's just me making it a little nuanced difference to make it my own. I even gave credit on the back of the album. And it took me nearly 30 years. I'd never seen Harry other than, heard he was close, and I'd go look for him, and I just missed him because he's kind of a private guy. And I just wanted to thank him. I said, to myself, I'm going, this guy gave me this career so long ago. And, but I finally did. I finally hooked up with him. It's been a long time ago, and thanked him. And he was kind of like, what? And I said, no, I mean, think about it. You played on that. My photo's on it. They know me, but your name, I gave it right here.
Yeah.
Album recorded with. I said, so those are your props, dude. But again, when people see me, they kind of go, oh, okay. And I've had my kind of persona. It was created in another band I was in with Tony, called Mothers of Dissension, MOD. And had a reporter watch us, and just my style, it's very Keith Moon, but very Animal, but it's aggressive. And I always say
What year is that band?
MOD was only 10 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, I feel like. And that was something that, Carl from Ill Repute, he was in that band with Tony and the boys. And it was just, I'm jumping ahead here, but, that was something this reporter, after seeing us and seeing what I do versus the other guys I follow, he just kind of went, you're a monster biker hybrid, visually arresting centerpiece. And it's like, when you watch me, that's
a writer.
I get that, and so it's been a very long one to think about. But anyways, so back to, Stalag. Yeah, I jumped in, the album was recorded. Our first show, the sidewalk of the Federal Building in Los Angeles on Wilshire. And I work in Hollywood for this motion picture industry, and I go by that thing all the time, and I look over there now, and they've got a fence. You could never touch that sidewalk. But Louis Elowitz, I hope I said his name right, he has shot videos forever back in the day, and they're all over YouTube. He has numerous videos of us in different stages of our years of playing. But
that one's on YouTube.
Yeah, that one's on there, and I have hair, and I'm wearing little short-fingered bicycle gloves.
Yeah.
Pendleton, playing a big, massive snare and a 26-inch kick and a big 16-inch rack tom.
Yeah.
And I hand silk screened the skeleton and the Stalag logo on the bass head. And that was like, again, that's that thing. I step into it. Same with Aggression. Boom, the Olympic. What? I'm on this huge drum riser, and there's thousands of people. And I'm like 18 then. Got to 21 with Stalag. And same thing. There was hundreds of people at that show. And I'm going, wow, this is pretty cool. Because all the other little projects in between Stalag, Aggression, and White Trash, and Heroes of Noise, and these little things were just, they're just little things you do. They're small. So Stalag, we ran for quite a while. We played numerous places. And of course, when you do Stepping Stone, no matter where we played, back in the day, the people came on the stage and you couldn't see the band from the crowd dancing around, stage diving, and they would crash into your gear. And literally, I remember the Music Machine down in Venice we played, and we could not get that song off the ground.
Yeah.
We started it 3-4 times, and the drums were just trashed. And once we finally did it, I ended up throwing most of the drums out into the crowd, and they destroyed a couple of the toms and pulled the legs off the floor tom. And I'd always played kind of beater sets in a weird way here and there when I knew it was going to be insane, just for the shock element to be like, yeah, I don't care, trash them. This is fun.
And dudes are always going to jump off the kick.
But that show, there was collateral damage on the drums, but it was so much fun. And to this day, never have found any video or things like that. Because again, nobody was shooting video unless you were Black Flag at the Cuckoo's Nest and they had, professionals.
Sure.
Circle Jerks, the big boys, anybody that were playing that were really drawing huge crowds and creating riots,
Yeah.
Yeah, video cams were there. But for us, we had Louis. He was out there shooting. And thank you again, Louis, for all your, right place, right time. Because he shot us again it was some holiday, and it was a ton of bands over at the Stardust Ballroom in Hollywood. And that's another one where they got on stage to the point where I couldn't even tell where the band was, and Blake's guitar broke. I was starting to shift gears too visually from the kind of the punk visual, which, I look back then and I look at the picture of me in Aggression. I had this little funny mustache. I had some hair, wasn't spiked. I was wearing like a cardigan sweater and jeans. And I'm like, we were considering ourselves punk visually, along with the music, but we hadn't jumped into spikes and mohawks and the colors yet. But, our idea of what we were, we went through the Bermuda short, high top skater, early surfy look.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of beach culture in there, right?
Yeah, and going back real quick on the Aggression thing, when Mark Aber came in, he took it to a harder punk sound. A thing I never got to say was when I was in the band, we had a very surf punk sound. Mm-hmm. It was very surf skate, but punk. Like, it was fast, it was aggressive. But I listened to those recordings on BYO, and they're so adorable. Yeah. I know it sounds totally weird, but yeah, I listened to it, and I listened to what Mark did, and I'm like, I love what Mark did. Mark really brought the hammer down and got the chainsaw and started cutting things. Me, it was just very backbeat, very like even more adorable than like, Agent Orange and the surf sound.
Sure.
But, back to the sound, it was, Stalag. Stalag was progressing, and now we're talking about 87, 88. We've been doing it 82, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 5 years solid. A lot of big shows, a lot of, we did some tours.
That's a long time to go without doing another record.
It is. And to jump way ahead, to be in a band almost 40 years and do one album, I feel like we're the Sex Pistols. and people go, what do you mean? Wait a minute, think about it. How many albums do they have? And they go, oh, yeah, they only have one.
I heard rumors about like a more heavy metal demo. Did you?
Stalag.
Yes.
Yes. And that's where I was just getting to that timeline that me and Ron, the singer, were just really hearing a lot going on. We were listening to a little more Atom Bomb. We're hearing about Beowulf. We're hearing about Excel, Agent Steel. Suicidal, of course, had always been around. But they were shifting gears. They were going heavier, more bludgeoning. And it was kind of a natural progression and curiosity, because I felt with that many years playing punk, what I considered punk, what I had heard, what I had seen, what I had emulated, what I had created, what I had laid down on vinyl, I felt like a change was coming. And the change was a merging with the long-haired dudes and us short-haired punks, the attire merging. The pits were no longer chaotic. They were getting more organized. Everybody was in there. Nobody was getting beat up. But the music was getting faster.
Yeah.
And, the term heavy metal really had been around, but I mean, that goes back to more acid rock and heavier rock, like when I saw Sabbath in the 70s, which is kind of weird that my parents would let me go with my brother at 13.
Which is great.
But
Very
it was
lucky.
awesome, yeah. I think the date was 74. I looked it up on the forum down in Hollywood and LA's. They have a kind of a timeline of all the bands. But anyway, so the music was colliding with another sound. So the long-haired dudes, the heavier rock and roll guys were playing faster. And really, I don't know of any of those bands that really started as punk bands that converted. So for me and Ron were like listening to Venom, black metal. We were listening to King Diamond, Merciful Fate. Metallica was on the scene. You had a lot of bands. Anthrax. You had, give me another one here. I was thinking of like Testament. Testament's a little bit later. I want to say more 88, 89. That's when I shifted with Dr. No. But in Stalag, we decided to tamper, and I call it tampering. And I even have some little anecdotes on YouTube when I posted those videos. They're not videos, they're just soundtracks. That we had that curiosity. We wanted to hear what would we sound like. And another change that had happened to the band, and this is a good timeline to talk about it, 86, 87, I'm not real sure what happened to John Morris, our bass player. I don't know if he just took a break. Blake, I know, wasn't around. So that leaves me and Ron. And Casillas was not in the picture. So we pick up Tony Black, who I know from Heroes of Noise. We pick up Tim Harkins, who's another Ojai phenomenal guitar player who now plays with the new current Dr. No Kyle version.
Okay.
And we get a bass player, Mike Purdy, who's from Ojai. I got really lost there for a sec. Sorry. No, Mike was in Dr. No. So it's Tony Black on bass, Tim Harkins guitar, and then a close dear friend, Chuck Collison, a.k.a. Chuck Steak from Oxnard. He's now in I Decline. No, Until We Die. Sorry. I got so many things wanting to come out of my head. So Until We Die, Chuck Collison, current band. They're awesome. But I got Chuck, I got Tim Harkins, I got Tony Black, Ron, and myself. And I had done a project somewhere in the somewhere in the Stalag years where it was between 82 and this 87. And it was me playing double bass. I played with a heavy metal band for a minute. And then Ron, Tony, Tim, Chuck, myself get together and we go, let's do Stalag songs in this crazy new crossover sound. Slow it down, chugging, speed it up, double bass.
Yeah.
Hence the video that Lewis shot of us in Oxnard at the C Street Civic Auditorium. And basically we played the whole set with a strobe light, smoke machine, and some police beacons on the tops of the cabinets.
And it's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube. I think it's hard as hell to find. I have it on VHS, which will be converted, and I will post it. But it's Tony, who is like a classically playing bass, flamenco bass, but tuned to D. And at the time, D was like heavy. Now they're tuning to, some letter that
D is still heavy.
D is heavy.
If you can't make it work, I mean, the first Obituary album's in E, So it's like if Obituary can make it work with E, you don't need to be tuned into B.
D was pretty heavy.
D's heavy.
And Tony would open songs with this reverberated, echoing bass, but in a flamenco style, and we just would bludgeon people. And that's the song City Wheels that we'd opened with, and it's on this video. But people were expecting Stalag 13 because they hadn't played in a while. It's a set like a 7-year window, 5 to 7 year window there that we hadn't played.
Did you record with that lineup?
Those songs that are on YouTube.
Okay.
I think there's 5 songs.
Okay. And it's like studio?
Basically, it's studio, but it was all done live in one room.
Okay.
Very low budget. I had a good friend help me put the tracks together.
Yeah.
Somewhat mix them. But even then, I listened to myself on the drums. I'm like, holy shit, man.
You were like peak performance.
Double bass, I'm on fire.
Yeah.
Got tired listening. But it was something, though, that I had experience with the metal band Dark Carnival locally here for a minute when Stalag was in this weird transition. Where did Dave go? Where did John Morris go? Blake, all this. So us reforming it, and nobody had seen us in a while, and we go and play with Dr. No, and even after the show, even Rick Heller, the drummer for Dr. No, at the time comes up and goes, what the hell was that? And I go, I don't even know, but it's awesome. And people were like blown away. They were in total shock. They were in denial. They're like, no. That's not the Stalag 13 skeleton, triptych guitar player on a cover of a Yellow album. No, what was that? So we didn't play anything in the original tempos. It was heavy, and it was pretty creative. So that was a little kind of a bit that had happened there in Stalag's journey, and then it just didn't work. It just wasn't being received well. Ron went off on a journey. I went off on a journey, and you cut to, hey, I hear Dr. No's in the studio. They're on Metal Blade Death, and they're having some problems. And I'm like, well, that's funny, because I know the owner of Metal Blade Records.
Yeah.
So let me see if I can make a call and make things work. Well, Rick, who was drumming for them, Heller, for Dr. No, had moved on, basically, because there was a lot of money in advance given to them, and it was used. And there was still an album that needed to be recorded. They had about half of it done. I put the deal together with Brian, the owner, and he says, you got to match the money to get this album off the ground. Well, at that time, E-Smile's gone, Rick Heller's gone, and it's Kyle and myself. And so I said, well, I got this guy, Tony Black, who did come into the band for a minute, but he left, and then we got Mike Purdy. And Tim Harkins staying with me, following me, and you could see how that kind of like when you get a good, like everybody's working well, hey, there's a project over here, let's go do it.
Yeah.
So we basically now are a defunct Stalag, tried our hand at like this black metal-ish.
Yeah.
And I liked it. So then,
yeah, to clarify for everyone, it's the third Dr. No LP.
The third Dr. No,
Wreckage in
in Flesh. And they had already had some songs from, I don't know what it was. But basically the band got reformed, put back in the studio from scratch. We had to showcase a bunch to earn money to finish the album. But what we came in with was now a double bass backbone, this tuned to D bass with Tony. And then once Tony left, Tony didn't record the album. Mike Purdy did. So Mike followed Tony Black's footsteps. Tim, who stayed there, who's phenomenal, and Kyle. So you got two guitars, this menacing young kid on bass and myself on double bass.
Yeah.
And literally, it was in the studio recording it and learning it kind of to that day still. We had only had a couple shows, earned some money, so it wasn't like a lot of money. We didn't have to play a ton. It wasn't like a year's worth of work. It was only a matter of a month or two.
Mm-hmm.
So now Dr. No's in the studio.
Because Dr. No is doing well at that time? Like, are you headlining? Are you
yes.
booking a show? You're headlining.
Yeah.
You're playing somewhere like.
But this is now the Kyle Dr. No, so you have to think this is a different.
I'm well aware of the band.
The energy is different.
Yeah. So like, what type of club are you playing?
We're playing wherever. We played the old. What's the one in Long Beach that finally burned down? It'd been there forever. I'll think of the name of it.
Fenders?
Fenders. Yeah, Fenders.
So you're playing Fenders.
We're playing Fenders. We're playing, I feel like we played the Stardust. I feel like we played, there's a Balboa Theater or something in San Diego.
Okay.
We played some kind of a skating rink somewhere that was another, it's like kind of blurry in there.
What are you're headlining? Are you drawing a couple hundred kids?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We're drawing, we're getting our guarantee. So the money's coming in. It's proving to be a good lineup.
And it's a crossover crowd? It's
totally crossover. But you still got the handful that show up and go, Dr. No, the witch lady with the staff, and they're like, where's Brandon?
But are there, so but there's your handful of like
correct.
Cocksucker little, like, like the
yes.
disappointed punk
correct.
people. But
absolutely.
Is the crowd, is it still like, is punk and metal mixed?
Totally cohabitating
There's
together.
people that like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're drawing, you're headlining.
At one point, one of the videos that's on YouTube of us at this theater, and I want to say it's in San Diego, Kyle's going, come on up here, you bunch of pussies. What are you doing back on the back wall? And there's a shitload of people, but they're all packed against the back wall. I think that's the metal crossover crowd because they're not slammers. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? So they're worried that they've heard Dr. No, Crazy Pit, rioting type level of energy. So the band Dr. No then hits the studio, records, the album comes out. I start doing my due diligence of the business thing. I contact a guy back in Jersey, put together a tour. We hit the road in 89. I want to say it's between 88 and 89. I think the album was done in 88, 89, somewhere in there. And we proceed to go out. And there's a couple videos, one from Texas and one from Florida, and the rooms are packed. And just off the hook.
You're killing it.
Yeah, just awesome. This lineup's great. We play CBGBs. We do all the way from California. I think we went the southern route this time. Went up, came over the top, and it was pretty impressive and very non-eventful. But that was another one that short-lived.
Do you headline CBs?
What's that?
Do you headline CBGBs?
Yeah. I actually have a cassette of that came off the board. One of the guys in Prong.
Yeah, that's one of my biggest regrets is in Control, my band, we played CBs, but we didn't have any money on tour, and we were so used to John Lyons in the living room. He'd give you the tape from the board for free. You just bring a blank tape. Hey, can you just
I actually got to play that.
Plug it in, whatever. Yeah,
it was very cool.
Yeah, we played CBs, and I think they charged like $75 or something for the tape, and we're just like, oh, that's a little out of our price range, At the time, and now I kick myself so much because we could have easily had someone put that out as a record.
Live thing.
I'm like, God damn it. why didn't I spend $75? It's like literally my biggest hardcore regret.
That's why I say there's so much footage out there somewhere, so many photos, and the only people I knew that were shooting were like Alison Braun and Kathy Rogers.
Yeah.
You know, those two women were like, again, ahead of the time, female photographers, taking interest signs, Ed Culver and Lewis, you know, shooting video. And I'm sure there's people I'm not even talking about. The other ones were Nick, and I forget his name, from For Use. That was an early 81, 82, 3-ish Hollywood. They'd go to the shows and photograph, document, put it on this 11 by 17 and bring it to the next show.
Wow.
And you'd be all looking for yourself and it going, dude, look at this. There I was, you know, Maggie from Ozier's, or, you know, there's a Bone, you know, and you just, the Mau Mau's, and you're just like, just going, dude, this is awesome. Who are these people?
Yeah.
But they were ahead of their time. They've actually, I think, since had some art showings of their, you know, documenting of all this. So, you know, there's a lot going on now between, I'm going to say 84 and 88, 89, 90 right in there. Things are starting to change. You know, not only is the music shifting and all these awesome bands are coming out. And again, I'm listening to, you know, these bands at midnight on a radio that I got in the window, and I'm trying to get signal because I'm in Ventura and they're broadcasting out of Marina Del Rey. And I'm hearing about the, you know, Beowulf Excel, Agent Steel, the new Suicidal Sound. So it was just something that kind of, I know a lot of people are like, you changed, but it's like, I was just curious. So was Ron. So were some other people that were like, let's try it. So, you know, that defunct. You get to the metal Dr. No, the crossover. And I hate to say it, I'm new to Instagram. I'm just, you know, lazy. I've just now, like, since I've just had the surgery and I can't do anything, I'm tweaking on it.
Yeah.
And just hashtagging, going, I finally understand hashtag.
Yeah.
And the stuff that's coming up is blowing me away, especially all over the world. Not in California or Oxnard, but you name it. I'm talking all over. Helsinki, Germany, Russia, just all over. People with that Dr. No album, people with the Stalag album. And the Dr. No album, I'm talking about Wreckage and Flesh, not all the others, but like those two that I had my hands in, really, I've not heard anything negative. Once in a while, you'll pick up somebody, like I did see on Instagram, there was a top, I think it was 14 horrible album covers, and we made it, Dr. No, Wreckage and Flesh. Because it was pretty hokey. The dog, the woman in the tornado, or dogs.
It's a little dated.
It's a dated.
But it's also a record that, I don't know, you kind of know what it's going to sound like.
If you saw the bands that we were in the grouping with, you'd go, oh yeah.
Yeah. Those
are pretty bad. Ours is, you know, marginal.
Yeah.
But nobody in any of that said the band, the music sucked. They're like, this is an album cover issue, boys. Really? So, you know, like I say, things were changing. My tastes were changing. That band, after tour, literally, I almost left halfway through it because I am so driven by business and a clear thinking process and linear in a way, but very broad focusing. Needed to, you know, when you're in New York, and I had the flu at the time, and trying to play night after night and being sick, you know, lucky that I didn't die, but I got to a point where the band was on a pretty high roll and the money was being spent. We allotted daily per diems to survive and have money for fuel, have money for these, you know, unforeseen things. And that's just me knowing, because I went on a school bus in 1980.
You have to do that.
You know what I mean?
That's
and
a
so
normal
this is
thing.
89, and I'm like, I've grown a bit in, you know, 9 years.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't working. So when we got home, I think there was one more show, and the band took another shift, I want to say, at one point again, here we are, Rick Heller came in on this thing. And I can't really remember if he was before me or after, but, you know, the band trudged along, and then that's the last I heard of it. Yeah. So after Dr. No, I've now, you know, conquered, in a way, Aggression, Stalag, and Dr. No. And now we're in like 2000-ish, 2001, and I start talking with...
Well, you can't skip the 90s. What do you do in
the 90s?
What do you do in the 90s?
Oh, that's true. You're right. Yeah, 89, 90s. So the 90s, I fall victim to marriage. Not a bad one. I'm thankful I have a beautiful daughter. And 18 years.
Mhm.
I learned a lot, but I packed it up. I stuffed it away. And Mark and Henry had passed within that window, I feel like somewhere in the 80s, later 80s.
Mark died. I could be wrong.
The,
later in the 90s.
Yeah.
And then Henry died, I want to say, right around 2000.
I have a poster that I have to. I just found it. It has their dates on it.
Yeah.
And it's Aggression tribute band that another friend of mine came out with, which is another thing we can talk about because this is. Henry, we're getting to that. But,
Henry did. He did Aggression after.
Well, I played with Henry. See, the thing is, Mark died. There was a big thing at the Ventura Theater here in Ventura for Mark. Mm-hmm. Aggression played. Mark Aber was in the band, and I was across the street having drinks at the little bar, San Souci. And guys were coming over, and Mike Hickey, Mark's brother, dude, you got to go play. You are and will be and you have to, and, pumping me. And I'm like, dude, I haven't played in like years. I don't even know if I know how to play. Like, I kind of freaked myself out. I'd been sheltered, tucked away, responsible father, worker.
Sure.
So I really had, I had this weird phobia, and it was a lot of people over there. I think the place was packed.
Yeah, I was there. I sang a song with Henry and with Burning Dog.
And that was the 90s, right? I just don't remember, but
I think it was 98, 99.
Was it that far?
Yeah, it was late.
And that's Mark died. Yeah.
That was Mark dying because Henry was alive.
Henry was later.
He played that show.
I kind of freaked out, didn't do it, felt really bad. And when I saw Mike many years later, Mike Hickey, I said, hey, I'm so sorry. He goes, no problem, man. He goes, I could see it in your face. You were like freaked the fuck out. I said, I had put it all away, and it's like a bike. I'm sure I could have done it, but me, where I was in my space, in my head, I just didn't see it. So that's when Joey Wolf contacted me somewhere in the early 90s. Hey, me and Eric Anders and Dave Casillas, we've been playing covers, but we need a drummer. And I got a spot down at the fairgrounds in the Quonset that we can practice. I'm like, well, I got to get a drum set.
Early 2000s, right?
Yeah, this is like 2000, probably 98, 2000, 2001, somewhere in there. This I don't have any real time frame on because a lot of things that happened for me getting back to playing. So they call me in. I find a drum set. Oh, no, I won't cut to that. Because I hadn't played. So
we should skip back to the 90s. Stalag gets back together and does a CD as Stalag with no 13 on it. And it's different band. It's Blake only.
And a whole new lineup.
Right, it's
Correct.
Just Blake.
And so I don't have a lot of knowledge of it is because I wasn't aware until later, and I kind of went.
It was Blake. Well, it was Blake and Joey Libke.
Correct.
So the guy that played on the demo, and then he did Edge Records and put out some local bands.
Yes.
He put out like No Motive, put out Burning Dog.
Right.
But so you weren't contacting
I wasn't anywhere near it. Heard about it. I just had known about it, and again, I'm in my shell.
Yeah.
So I'm not staying in touch. I'm not going to parties. I'm not going to shows.
Yeah.
I had my daughter in 88.
Mm-hmm.
So you can figure from 88 to like 98.
Yeah.
Family man.
Yeah.
Listening to music, watching MTV, Headbangers Ball, going through it like everybody. The hair was still there because 88, it was long for the Dr. No era. 90, I think probably around 98 is when it came off. But still listening to a lot of like the grunge is happening. I'm falling into what's going on in the world. But that's it. I hadn't really played.
Yeah, so early 2000s, you hooked back up with Dave, and you started doing Nardcore All-Stars?
No, the All-Stars was yes. Yeah, the All-Stars. Yeah, with Dave, Eric Anders, and Joey Wolf. Joey sang, Eric bass, Dave on guitar. And so when I sat in for the first one, it's like I thought. It's like riding a bike. It all comes back. But we were doing everything from Circle Jerks, Black Flag, Misfits, Descendants, Social D, TSOL, Agent Orange, Bad Brains, you name it, we did it.
Yeah.
We'd have hours of music, and we became a house band in Simi Valley on a Sunday, always packing them in, always making money. Anything I ever was in, we never didn't make money, but not the kind of money when people hear this, they'll be like, oh, you're wealthy. No. But I mean, we got gas money.
Sure.
We had drink money. We had food.
Yeah.
So to me, that's like a plus. and this will be interesting for anybody that thinks in my 40 years of doing this, I've seen no dimes, no pennies. From Aggression to Stalag to Dr. No, I've never seen a dime. Because when I did it, I was young. We just wanted to be on a record. We wanted to say, well, those are those big black 12-inch things that nobody really knows. But
is it because the only one that you would think you would get money from would be the Dr. No, right?
Well,
but did it not
anything
recoup?
that I record, that's part of my creation, which would have been the Aggression.
Mm-hmm.
Stalag, it could have been worked so that any part of a record sale, but not the creative, the BMI.
But Upstart's long gone.
Yeah. And then with Dr. No, absolutely, and I never really told you where that music came from, which I'll come back to that because I was starting to get there. And of course, with so much in my head, it's exploding.
Well, let me ask you this, because we're before I forget, Stalag is the one that never associated with Mystic.
Correct. We did.
Obviously you're on the Nardcore.
What was that song that we did? Do It Right, which was kind of a funky. Again, me and Ron. This is before the metal. We're going.
You were on
Let's
comps.
get funky.
Yeah.
Let's try some Beastie Boy weird.
Yeah.
Because the Vandals had a turntable. So we just always had a pretty broad spectrum of music, and never were so punk that all we heard was punk. We always, and I grew up on Blue Note jazz as a kid. My parents listened to jazz. I went through the disco. I went through everything. I listened to it all. And I think because you open your eyes and ears to everything, you can draw from it all. So Ron was another one that was always interesting to me, that he always would say, yeah, man, check this out. And so we did that. I don't know if it was one or two songs with Mystic. But it was
a couple
done.
Songs on the Nardcore comp and a couple random songs you might have been on Slimy Valley, or you were on compilation maybe.
Yeah, and we did them, but we never went. Okay,
but you never went and did a 7-inch or anything.
No, and we never went against Doug Moody, who came to one of our Stalag shows in San Diego about 5 years ago.
It's when Ryan was singing.
Yes,
because I met him that night.
Yeah, and he was in the tracksuit.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh my god! I was telling my wife,
that was great.
Look at this dude.
I think
and
that
his
was
wife. They were to the nines. And, I look at it like he's a businessman. And anybody, and I'm sure Brandon has something to say. I think everybody's had something to say. Tony Cortez. I looked at it like this. I wanted to be on, in a band, I wanted to be on a record or cassette. And that was that. And you always hear these terms, and I know them to the day, I quit. You'll get paid after the recoup expenses.
Sure.
So when you cut to what a recoup expense is, it goes off in so many different ways that a lot of people think, oh, it's very linear, A and B in a straight line, but it's not. It's, distribution, advertising, who does the artwork, who does this, who does the hand, warehouse. It's crazy. So as an artist, I've always, and the person I really done this a lot with was Bill from Dr. Strange. He actually wanted to send us royalties. He wanted to send us money from the sales, and it still does well. And to this day, when he picked us up and wanted to do...
Because he did the repress of In Control.
He did the repress of In Control. I told him, you just take whatever comes in and you put it in the kitty, because as a small punk rock label record store, I've never seen another record store like his. That store is awesome. Anytime we go to Vegas, we always get off the freeway.
Stop there on the way.
And we do our due diligence and say hi and hug and photos, because that guy saw something. He's still doing it, and he's behind the bands 100%. I've told him, I said, I still get the reports. He sends them to me once a year. I see what gets shipped out, what gets sent back. I see the pluses, the minuses, and there's money. But it's if you are living in a motorhome and, want to survive, those royalty checks would keep you going a week or two.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So me being who I am and have been since a young kid, working at carnivals and swap meets and having a sense of, you need it, you got to work for it and earn it. I've had my career. I got 28 years in the motion picture industry, and I'm looking at in 4 more years, I'm out.
Yeah.
And I don't even feel old enough to talk about retiring, which is really wild.
Sure.
So I tell my wife, I said, 4 more years, we're going on tour. And she looks at me and goes, babe, you already toured. What the hell are you talking about? So it's kind of my joke. But, the monies from anything I've done, never asked for it, never needed it, never felt I'm entitled. I've had a lot of people, even my wife, say, well, you guys were naive. You guys should have went and copywritten, done your, the bug, the BMI, all this stuff. You should, it's out there somewhere and you could still do it. But I look at it like there are those that need it. There are musicians that I know that are close to me, that are from bands I've been in, not naming anyone, but there are those that need it. And I don't.
It's just important that stuff got documented, right? Because if it wouldn't have, it would have been a fucking shame.
Correct.
Like you think about all the 90s Nard bands, there were so many good bands. The Clenched Fists and the Burning Dogs and these.
The stuff that was in the scene, that's what I'm really bummed, is I was kind of under the rock through the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And I really missed the Annihilation Time, the In Control, all those bands you said. Because I still to this day laugh and say punk rock never died in Oxnard. Never did. Never went to sleep like I did.
Yeah.
And really, if you think about LA and other states, in a sense, it kind of got pushed back with other stuff coming in, other types of music. But literally, Oxnard's scene never stopped. And it's very impressive, very thankful to be a part of it and support any way I can still. But it, like you said, it had to be documented. And that's all I wanted. That's all I ever wanted to do. And when you're young, you know, to go, hey, look, that's a picture of me. That's me playing. That's why I get kind of like the giggles when I'm listening to Pandora and it's the Dr. No station and, you know, Dear John Letter comes on and it's this like me, this little 18-year-old, 17-year-old punky backbeat surf drummer. And I'm like going, oh my God, that is funny. You know,
it's amazing.
And then I cut to like the recordings I've done with Stalag, which totally again are different than what Harry ever did.
Mm-hmm.
And we've done some recordings recently to kind of like lay it down and be like,
you did a new CD in 2017.
Yeah, and it's really cool. I think it needed a little bit more oomph, but I like it because, you know, it's punk. It's Stalag 13 from 1983.
Sure.
And then I listen to like when I really am feeling like the horns got to go up, I put on a little Wreckage and Flesh, and we'll sit out here. I got a big stereo system out there under the shed, and we just crank it and just giggle and go, what were we thinking?
It's great.
You know, but that was my growth. That was me expanding and saying, yeah, it was fun. You know, I had fun doing it. And maybe there's some hardcore cats out there that they've only stuck to their sound and never shown anybody that they've grown musically in their likes and dislikes. And to this day, until they die, they'll only play this song, you know, to me, I'm like, I get bored fast.
Mm-hmm.
If I'd have kept every drum set I ever owned since I've been a musician, I'd need a huge property to house them all.
Sure.
But I always got bored with everything. Get rid of the drums, new drums.
Yeah.
You know, my first drums were basic, and then once I hit Stalag, I'm all big, 26-inch. It's got to be huge, man. Like big toms and big snare. And, you know, going to shows, you see somebody rocking that, and you're like, whoa, that's huge.
Yeah.
You know, so it's about, again, that sound.
Yeah.
You know, what you're creating. But I just always got bored. So I think the only thing I really have from the past, which is pretty funny, is one of the double bass drum heads from the Dr. No, you know, 88, 89, sorry. 90s are still getting me. 89, 88. It's one of the bass drum heads that Eric Gottesman, who did the album cover. I got it in the man cave.
Cool.
And the one with the spider, I don't know where that ended up. Somebody made off with it. Probably a girlfriend. But I really only have photo memories. Very thankful for the video memories that are out there. There's people have flyers still.
Well, there's only going to be more and more popping up if you think about it because, you know, it's like you saying right now, I just need to be able to convert this from one thing to the other. You know, there's old punk dudes out there like, I got this videotape. If I just figure out how to convert it, you know.
Well, like, you know, the Stalag, the metal stuff I did, sat on a 1/2-inch reel.
Yeah.
For years.
Well, that's a white whale. Like, I came here today saying, like, I heard a rumor about it, right? And I'm a fucking moron. It's on YouTube now.
It's on YouTube. All 5 songs.
Yeah,
and they're awesome. And what's funny about them is when you look for it, Stalag 13, you're going to find really interesting photos. And it kind of is misleading, you know, and I did it purposefully because I know there's going to be the hardcores going, what the hell, you suck.
Yeah.
But I also have had a lot of people say, man, I heard that. I heard it, like you said, it's just a rumor. What the hell? Literally, and I'll go back here real quick because the Dr. No Wreckage and Flesh music was music from a band Tony Black was in, Belial.
Mm-hmm.
They were a heavy, heavy band out of Ojai, single bass drummer. I'd already messed with my double bass. Again, right place, right time. And I'm a little pushy sometimes. Like, you need a better drummer. And I feel bad because my boy, who I pushed out, is like a brother. And recently I had to like drunkenly go, I fucking love you, dude. But guess what? Your time was up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Remember back in '89?
You know,
yeah, that was me.
You're hugging. You're all like, I love you, bro. And then he's all, but you kicked me out. You got me fired, bro. But literally, I was playing with Tony and Tim, and we were doing the Dr. No material on Wreckage and Flesh.
Yeah.
So you bring Tony and Tim, who it's their music, to a studio under Metal Blade Death. There's your music.
Yeah.
So that music is not written by Kyle. I mean, of course, his lyrics, yes.
Sure.
But that music was created somewhere else, and we had played it. So hence I knew it. But we, of course, you manipulate it and change it so that it's a little different. As what Kyle's doing now with the music from Wreckage and Flesh, because I listened to their drummer it was so awesome because I hadn't seen Kyle in 100 years. Hadn't seen that band in 100 years. And we do the Nard Fest, or what I love to call Nardstock. Come on, guys in New York from Woodstock.
Is that hilarious?
But you know what? Got it. So Nard Fest comes off. Second time we do it. There's the metal year and the punk. And I go to watch the Dr. No and had heard about a guy, I don't know if Steve Vega is the current guy or the original one whose brother was somebody. And they sounded awesome. But I got to see him with the guy who I want to say is me. He gets off from behind the drums, no shirt, bald, beard, dad belly. And I'm like, I fucking love this guy. And, I give him props because he plays it 99% like the album.
Yeah.
Now and I do this a lot and I get critiqued for it, but he's a real drummer.
Yeah.
Me, I'm a timekeeper. I'm a metronome with a little flair. But this guy, he's, I call them trained drummers. They can do rudiments and rolls and fills and, all the proper stuff. And, I'm kind of a punk drummer, but, but this guy really brings it. And so I've really been appreciative to see what he's done, and they haven't butchered it. They've slowed some stuff down, which totally makes sense from what we did. Again, it's an evolution, and Kyle wants to keep it going. And it's a shame that Kyle tied up the name and hasn't really done much. I heard they had a new album, but that's been quite a few years.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of anything. And so, when Brandon, which is another later story here for us, the No Project came along, he's like, can't be Dr. No, it's just No. I'm like, cool. But,
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's cool, right?
It's the old Brandon Dr.
It's just so people know. The Cro-Mags this past week, they finally hashed out their legal stuff because Harley's been playing a band and John Joseph's been doing his thing. And actually, they're both awesome. But now you'll be able to tell which one it is.
That's cool. And I just recently stumbled on something. I thought, I wasn't even aware of this. But
you do want to know who you're seeing, right?
Totally,
yeah. And especially those two, they're different.
Different,
and they're both awesome.
And Kyle does play some of the early Dr. No punk stuff.
Yeah.
Their drummer is awesome. Don't get me wrong. I don't think he's a punk drummer. I think he's solid as a metal, hard rock, very versatile drummer. But there's something about what I do and drummers of the early era. There's just something like I hear it, and I watch drummers. I'm a heavy drummer watcher, and by no means am I perfect. But when I watch them, and I'm like, I can see a faking it. I can see it just getting through it. And when they fall back into something that's more that drummer's style, then I'm like, I see where his strong points. So, it's kind of like, I think what I've done in 40 years is develop something that, as in the No Project, can go fast as hell. And even I giggle when I'm doing it going, holy shit, dude, I'm going to light myself on fire. I'm going so fast. But can do the Stalag stuff that's very minor threat, middle of the road tempo, but still fast.
Yeah.
And easy to play.
Are you going to record with No?
We had talked about it, new material and that, but with Brandon being in Copenhagen, it's a little hard.
Yeah.
He's got some guys from Shiza and Manelli.
Although you could record digital here and just send him the files.
Yeah, we had talked about it. So, I mean, that's, Fred is very busy with his MTV job. Ismail is busy with his. So I think that's to come, absolutely. Because I'm telling you, if I had to put one to sleep, sorry, everybody, but I'd put Stalag to bed. It's just because it's so energetic. People lose their minds with that music. And Fred has got to be one of the most insane, wiggly, wild guitar players. I mean, that dude is, I get a kick out of watching his insanity.
Yeah.
Just, he can't sit still, and he's so anxious and so pumped. And it took me a minute to get used to are you ready, Larry? Are you ready? Hold on, I got to wipe the sweat. I need a drink, and he's going.
Yeah.
And it's just, so it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy that band.
That rules.
Yeah. So, I mean, back to like the Dr. No, it's a cease and desist after the tour in 89. Then you get into the 90s. They pull me out after about almost 10 years, I guess, to playing with Nardcore All-Stars. Mm-hmm. Then, now we cut back to the Aggression reunion. Henry's still alive. Mark's gone. And it's a show for Brandon Cruz's mom, who's stuck down in South America, and it's over at the old, was it the Roadhouse? In Oxnard off the freeway.
Torn down now.
So that is something that, again, my nervousness is like, Big Bob goes, "You going to play some songs?" And I'm like, give me a CD because, I'm doing this All-Stars thing, and I'm really hip to that. But, yeah, okay. And literally it was me, Big Bob, and who was on guitar? Was that Rob? I feel like it was Rob Thatcher, and Drew was singing. And we played at the Roadhouse. I want to say it was a couple songs, and it was so, because I'm just naturally, my tempo's fast.
Yeah.
It was fast, it was tight, it was awesome. No rehearsal. And when we got done, Big Bob comes up and he goes, "Oh, man." Because they'd had all these numerous drummers.
Sure.
In this, again, a 10-year window after Mark Aber.
Yep.
Jelly Roll and this guy and that guy and this guy. And, and I bring back this flavor. And Bob goes, "We got to do shows, son." And I said, all right. So I hadn't had anything going on, really. The All-Star thing was just, hit and miss whenever we want to play. So I jumped back into the Aggression. Now we're playing some shows that are picking up steam. We're doing the Covered Wagon up in San Francisco. We're playing here. We're playing Don Quixote's in Santa Cruz. And they're pretty full shows. People want to see Aggression. And Drew's slaying, the front man spot. And I want to say this is probably within a year's time. And I don't have an exact year, but most of it is in the 90s. Whenever Henry now gets sick and we lose Henry. Well, there was kind of the dust settles, and now it's, Jess Leedy says, "Hey man, Henry's last words to me were like, keep it alive." So Jess says, "Let's do it." So me, Jess, Big Bob, and Little Rob Little Rob's playing guitar. I feel Dave Casillas came and sat in a few shows. We did some stuff in Hollywood. And it's kind of spotty in there because, again, these are like little bursts. They're nothing that ran for any length of time.
Sure.
No tours. But Aggression was back together and just slaying the shows. And it was so much fun. Then Henry passes, and it's now what I call the, flogging the dead horse, in a sense. And I should have known better. I should have quit well ahead. But, there's something about it. Even with Ron gone in Australia, I still do stuff.
Sure.
I love John Carr. He is a friend, a brother, an amazing musician all the way around, and just has made me want to keep going.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as Aggression, there should have been a time to stop. And so I don't even know when that really ended. We did some shows without any of the original members other than me and Bob. And then that just kind of, again, fizzled, and it just goes, again, back to its dormancy. But, then you hear, oh, Big Bob's with Mike Hickey singing, and Danny Dorman, and Mark Aber, and now they're playing the Nard Fest.
Yeah.
And I'm like, awesome, and that's another one that after numerous years, I have no idea why Mark Aber thought, and if he ever listens to this, I love you, brother. He thought I was after him, and if he ever came through Ventura Oxnard, there was going to be this punk militia that was going to bury him. And I thought, what a weird thing, right? So, again, 30-plus years, he sits on the stage with Aggression. I walk up to him, and I can see it in his face. He's like, oh, shit, we're going to fight or hug. And I just said, hey, man, it's been a long time. You've done a great job. Keep doing it. I don't know with all this crazy rumors, and he's just all fidgety. He's all, yeah, man, no, everything's good. I was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just some weird history of like, you hear, you feel, but you don't know why.
Yeah.
But, so, I mean, then that band's gone through incarnation after incarnation. And I think it's back again. If I'm not mistaken with Jess. And Bob, I think, only plays so many songs, and I think Aber's playing drums.
Well, Jess does a great job as a frontman.
Oh, my God. Jess is like golden.
He's perfect for that band.
That guy, whatever he touches, he is the consummate musician that is horn playing, keyboard playing, drum, That's why when we played the All-Stars, that was a shift, too, when Joey left to go work back east. Jess jumps in on the All-Stars, and it just starts picking up this steam. But then it also became he and I bumped a lot because he's a perfectionist. And I had to say a couple times, punk rock's kind of raw. Its timing, technique, and tempo are out the window. So,
and you're a cover band.
Yeah. So
you just have
any
fun.
variances that you're feeling and you're just saying we're sucking and let's pull it together and you need to pick the game up. I have an opinion about that, and I've recently heard a lot of new Agent Orange, and they are so polished and so good. They were always good, but I mean, 40 years later, you hear them and you go, they got a sound.
Yeah,
it's
they're great.
Surfy, punky, but it's really good. So then I go, okay, well, the All-Stars, oh, man, you're playing Black Flag, you're playing Bad Brains, you're playing stuff that you can't clean that up. You got to keep it like it was. You got to keep the nuance. You got to keep those the robo fills and six pack. You got to, you know what I mean? Don't church it up.
Yeah.
Don't church it up because it doesn't work. But I mean, as an original group, if you're going to stay in that group, look at Social D, man, more power. Those guys, I watched their earlier footage on these videos and the movie and remember them, and they're just like the rest of us, all making a sound. It was raw, it was loose. Hit the pocket, out of the pocket. But, they stayed with it, and they evolved as Agent Orange. They evolved as these bands that are still going.
Mm-hmm.
DI, Channel 3, they've all just kept, the Dickies. The Dickies were always good. They were polished from day one. I saw them at the Whiskey in like early 80s and was like, oh, man. But I mean, that to me, there's a big difference in real musicianship and, people that get together and make stuff that, noise that people want to bounce off the walls.
Sure.
And, In Control with Ryan and listening to that band, I was like, holy shit, man. You want to tear things down, Annihilation Time. I want to rip, things off the walls.
Yeah.
But that's what the music meant to me. It was always about what's your instinct? What's your emotional mood?
Sure.
What's it doing to you? Can you just stand there and be like, rock your head? Or do you go, you want to grab chairs and throw them out the windows, and that's what my era of music and my belief was, is if it makes you feel that way, then, and I think that's the way Flag was always. That's the way Circle Jerk, that's the way all those early bands were. The DC sound, the Texas, the San Francisco, the Kennedy's, the only one I haven't put my hand on it quite is Flipper. But they're in there,
But that's what they're there for.
That's what they're there for.
That's the point of the band.
Husker Du, Necros. I mean, these are bands that when I listened to them, I was like, whoa, listen to that guitar, Septic Death. I mean, there's tons of bands, man. Like when I started digging in, I'm just like, Iron Cross and just bands that they played and you just went, your senses perked up and you wanted to run through a plate glass window.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, it should do that to you. Music should make you feel something.
Yeah.
Regardless of what it is. if there's no feeling there, then you're probably a shit band.
Even I hadn't seen TSOL since about 83, 84 at the Devonshire Downs Fairgrounds. And that was when Jack was all white face and the women showing up were wearing like white wedding gowns with, white face, death, kind of a very ethereal, kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, the band got down and made you want to start a pit and throw people around, So visually, you can't take the band visually for what it is. And that's the thing, like when Stalag was shifting and going into this metal thing and Rod's growing his hair and he's wearing a Venom patch on his jacket. And I'm hanging out with Drew Bernstein from America's Hardcore and my hair is black and starting to dread and I'm wearing black, denim jacket and black pants. And we used to take silkscreen ink and make them as black as possible and then throw it in a dryer and cure it and then take paraffin wax and you rub it all over everything and you iron it. It just takes on that 30-year-old grungy biker denim.
Yeah.
And we were starting to like get into that, like the peace punk, living off the earth, vegetarianism. And I'm trying to remember the band that Drew went up north to play with, Crucifix. And so, again, everything's shifting. We're listening to Crass. We're listening to Rudimentary Peni. And, there's a lot, man, that's going on from like 80 to about like 90. Things are just coming unglued, unstitched. The pins are being pulled out of the hinges. And it's like, where are you ending up? Nobody knew. I was, a matter of days could go from one thing to another and never, was so hard set on this is my look. It's like, this is the sound I like. And this is, I want to fit in and, you emulate what's going on. So, now I just am lazy and grow a beard and, still do what I do. And I enjoy it so much because it's the kids. The parents are still there. They show up, but it's their kids. It's the offspring. And it's not about money, I would much rather, going into it, they go, dude, just show up and play. We'll give you some beer.
Sure.
And if there's some bucks, the Concrete Jungle's awesome. I'll play there anytime.
Yeah.
Those are the best shows, best sounding room, best crowds. They give you free beer. I'm not straight edge. I have a little cocktail once in a while, but, I grew up too. Stalag 13 was a big thing about straight edge, and we lived it, breathed it. But, at 19, 18, 20, you think you know it all, but you don't. So you start growing up and you live. But yeah, there's still so much fire for it. It's fun. I enjoy it.
That's great. It's good you still love it.
It's a ton of fun, and I don't see it stopping. And I, from the literally 2000, with the re-release of Stalag, we went on the road with Dr. No. I think it was 2003. And this is Ron flies in from, Australia. Me, Ron, John Morris, Blake. And I don't recall if Dave was with us. And we went up the coast and went all the way up to Washington, and just an amazing time. And that was the Dr. No lineup with Craig on guitar, Ismail on bass, and Eric on drums, and Brandon. And they just, when they would play, I'd just sit there in awe going, holy hell, man. Because they never stopped touring. All those years between whenever Stalag was together in its weird form to 2003. And then that, Stalag gets put to sleep again from 3 to, when was the Armageddon? 2011, 10 or 11, when Nick put together the Armageddon Festival.
Okay.
3 shows. They paid us a ton of money. Like, I just went, what? How much?
Yeah.
I sent it to Ron, all of it.
Yeah.
He brought his whole family out from Australia. And that was the lineup. Blake, Dave Casillas, me, John Morris, and Ron. And we played the Observatory to a full house, which blew me away. We played up at the up in San Francisco there, in Berkeley, at the Co-op Club there.
Gilman.
And we had a kickoff show at one of the bars over.
I came up because that was so fun.
That was
Shores.
Beyond capacity.
Yeah.
That was the hottest I've ever been in a room. I almost passed out.
Yeah.
What was it there? Oh, Women's Center. Oh, yeah. There was basically 4 shows. A kickoff show with Ron to get his chops back. But that was another, bam, an awakening. The band, gets together for one rehearsal. We do a live show in Oxnard. We truck up to Gilman. We do the Women's Center, and all the footage and photographs. It's packed.
No, that's great.
Because it's like we created the demand.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have so much supply. And so I kind of like that. We worked our butts off, though, 2016 with both bands, No and Stalag, to earn money to get over to Europe. So, I mean, that was something that, you saturate, you play everywhere, LA, San Francisco, South, Vegas, anywhere. Just put the money in the till to get the tickets. So that's what we've done now this year for Tokyo. And we're ready. We bought tickets the other day, and gotta start brushing up.
So fun. It's
on
gonna be
my
awesome.
Japanese.
Yes.
But I've seen videos of these automated robotic sushi delivery systems. I'm like, looks like a Tesla coming right in front of you, and it stops. You take your sushi off, and it takes off. I mean, just bizarre. There's a thing called I think it's called a robot diner, and like this giant lit by every kind of LED giant shark thing comes out with its jaw flapping and a band on its back.
Mm-hmm.
Asian women playing. I mean, it's.
We got to make sure you set aside time to go there.
I'm gonna try to photo that. We didn't do. I did a lot of photos in Europe in 17. Not a lot of videos. This one, I think I'm gonna make sure somebody shoots video because it's. I mean, I wish we had video from 2017 tour. The Croatian crowd. And what's so cool, again, back to my, I'm just awakening to Instagram. I'm touching base with all these people, finding their videos of us over there. And I'm just
sure.
Like, oh, my God, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Because they were epic shows. They were huge squats. The one in Croatia is a giant, old, closed down, almost like a university grounds, a school grounds. I think they said there's 300 rooms, and each one has some kind of organization there, part of the co-op. We played at the Au in Germany, which is the oldest squat known, and they just pack them in day after day, week after week shows. But just such an amazing group of people everywhere we went. So and there's still a lot of world out there we haven't even touched. I'm really been trying to touch base with this Nardcore. They're out of where are they at? They are Indonesia.
Okay.
And their punk scene down there is insane.
Yeah.
There are no shows probably smaller than 1,000 people.
Holy cow.
And their pits look like they were given bath salts to smoke, and then they are tearing their flesh off. It's pretty crazy. So that's right. Indonesia, Bali is really one. So yeah, there's still a lot to come. But as far as the history of this thing, it's been cool too to have Joe and all these figures that have been there and keep in some way their hand in it. For me, I try whenever I can, but when you work as much as I do, I'm 60 plus hours a week. That my weekends are my playing or are we on tour or but I've been in touch with a skate company locally at Oxnard recently, and they seem like some good grassroots cats that are supporting kids' skateboards, skate parks. And I said, yeah, let us know. I see that they had a show over there at that one out in Waimimi.
Yeah.
In the bottom with
it looked like a Ranger.
The girls' band name, but they're awesome.
Yeah.
And I don't think that, what is it, Auxilio?
Yeah.
Are they LA?
It's LA with the drummers from Nard.
Oh my God, they're so awesome.
Yeah, they're Ragers.
There's so many great bands, and 3 Day Holocaust and Civil Conflict. I mean, oh my God. My eyes are being again opened up in the backyard party we did over there.
Yeah, it's all a big cycle. The Nard is on fire again.
Dude. I'm just thankful that
that's why it was so important to document.
And we can let them see what kind of energy. We're not old and slow, man. We still have
not old yet.
Piss and vinegar, and but I think I covered most of the bands and all the projects.
No, I think it's
between
good.
The 2000s. It started up again, like I say, with that tour in 03 with Stalag and Dr. No. And then there was again that hole that happens, and then the Narmageddon. And that's like, again, from 2003 to 11. That's quite a few years.
Yeah, and that's the interviews at Raw, and then you get Ryan for a little bit, and then the
Nardfest, and so we hit up, now a lot of this is always run through Ron. Hey, how would you feel? And he's like, hey man, I'm in Australia. I'm getting a PhD. I got a life and a family, but
not only in Australia, he's in Western Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we've actually tried to talk to him about, come over to Europe when we come over.
Yeah.
So that'd be awesome,
Well, if you did Indonesia, I mean, that's not too far.
But, so, we still try to stay in touch. And,
no, it's good. I think this has been good.
Yeah. There really isn't much really after Nardfest other than the Stalag train starts, moving across the country again to keep playing. And
you're going to keep going. You're going to play Japan.
We're going to do Japan. And then, I don't know. I keep asking everybody in the band. I go, when are you done? And they go, I don't know. And I said, I feel we'll be done when one of you says I'm done. Because I really don't want to do an Aggression again. And I love the boys. I love everybody that's been a part of Aggression over the years. But I think at some point we've really stretched it without Ron. Very powerful when he was here for the Armageddon thing. That was just wild. And I love John Carrara, and I love Ben, who's replaced Dave. But I think at some point, once we lose one more, I think that'll be it. If Blake gives it up or John. And at one point, John Morris had said he was done. So I don't think I'll be the one to jump out. I think it'll be like somebody's going to have to do it. I'll be like, yeah, I think it's time.
Yeah.
Because there is still so much out there. There's the No Project. There's people I know that would love to do something. Like, for a minute recently, we did something for Ismail's birthday, and Brandon jumped in and said, let's do a Discharge cover band. So that was off the Chuck Stake, Chuck Carlson, Todd Bogus, me, Ismail, and Brandon. And I never thought I'd have that much fun playing Discharge covers.
I can't think of anything better.
It was, well, and I told Bones in Copenhagen, I said, I'm who I am because of you, the D-beats, the whole Discharge, the style, and also very minor threats, something with just certain rhythms that I like. I don't want to be the traditional, kind of punk drummer. There's always something that I've wanted a little different flair, kind of a signature thing. So, but so it's still a wild ride, man. It hasn't stopped.
Yeah, you feel like you got everything out here?
I think it's it. Yeah, and I think there were points that I was worried that weren't going to make it, and I think for the most part, yeah. And we've grabbed Stalag. When I say we've grabbed some older material that were like 20-second, 30-second songs, and I've worked on those and tried to fit those into the lineup. But, in Europe, when we went over the first time in 2008 with the Punk Elvis Band, they want an hour and a half, 2-hour set. And I noticed when we went in 2017, 40 minutes to an hour is enough. They're okay. They aren't going to rip the place apart because you didn't play.
Yeah.
And I'm noticing more and more, I for all the young bands out there, headlining don't mean shit. Play the middle, man, because people leave. They get tired. Back in the day, we wanted to be the top dog. We wanted to be the headliner, but guess what? It's not the same. Now I find there's more people when we play the middle slot. When Stalag played a few years back out at in the Agora, whatever that Canyon Club with DK's, we had the middle slot. I think we had the most people. Place was off the hook. DK's got up there and it was kind of like a bunch of crickets, and I feel sorry for the band, but it's that way now. It's rare. So yeah, the middle slots are good. Good for me. We play, we get in, get business done, and leave. And Brandon's pretty much coined it the best. He goes, we leave him kind of with a shock and awe, like, what was that?
Yeah.
When we just played with the Rattlescents too at the 5-star. As I called it, we ripped their faces off and put it back in their hands. So they were like, what do I do now? Because I guess after we played, a lot of people were like, you can't follow the No Project up. Like, yeah. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's totally insane, and I agree. So that was my horn. It's a lot of fun. But, thank you for, thank Joe for even, wanting to dig in on some of this, because this is just my perspective, and I'm sure, there are, and it'd be nice to find Rick Heller, because he's got growing up in Oxnard stories. E-Smile's got growing up in Oxnard stories. My accounts are from being there.
I'll do E-Smile for sure.
You know what I mean? The parties
Yeah.
and playing shows and practices. And, you assimilate a lot. My family had businesses in Oxnard. So as a little kid on a BMX bike, was riding around Oxnard, the Twin Centers, which is now Center Point, and, Saviors and Channel Islands, and way out toward, Wainini Road, which as a little kid back then, it was pretty gnarly out there.
Yeah.
Out there by the skating rink. So, I mean, my association is solid and true to form as those that live there. I mean, I think I spent enough time there and, have some good roots there and a lot of friends and family. But, it's Oxnard's not going anywhere, man. It's the weirdest, strangest scene. And I'm so thankful for all these new bands. I get so excited seeing these new bands, the 3 Day Holocaust, Civil Conflict, all of them. All these new bands it's so energizing to go. All right, there's no break in the chain.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's the part that's been so amazing for nearly 40 years. We're like on 39 years. So it's close enough for me to call it nearly 40.
Yeah.
Because if I started in 78, I think I got my first drum set in 78. My buddy Pete Ballmer, who was a metalhead, goes, "Dude, buy a drum set." And I'm like, I don't know how to play. Just buy it. Set it up in my mom's condo. And they didn't sound like the records we were listening to, so took a while.
Yeah, good run though, huh? All right. Well, thanks so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Dave's a good one. I don't know